Hi, beautiful people. This is the Bliss Hour Show, and today we are going to be interviewing Pastor Christopher Holland once again. And guess what? We'll be exploring his unique insights on some questions. But before we do that, sit tight, we'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. Like I said, we have Pastor Christopher Holland with us today. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. You're welcome, sir.
I am so glad to be here, and I'm glad to be spending some more time with you, Bliss.
Thank you very much, sir. Like I said, we have some questions for you today. And the first on our list is concerning the program Almost Home. How has it been for you?
It's been a very exciting program.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity to speak, and one of the things that has been very important to me is I understand I'm in a place where there are many languages spoke, and it's not for me. I grew up in the Midwest of the United States, and the Midwest is not known for having an accent to our English. You go to the East, you go to the West, you go to the South, and people talk a little different. But when I came to Nigeria the first time, it was very interesting for people to say, you have an accent. And I said, oh, this is very interesting for me. So one of the things where I have grown personally from Almost Home is trying to speak very articulate and in language so people can understand. And as I'm getting reports from the downlink centers all over Nigeria, I think the Lord has helped accomplish that. But for overall, when you're doing a series like this, that we're beaming a satellite, there's a lot of technical things that can go wrong. And we have not had any technical difficulties that we've not been able to overcome. Although there were some people, because the devil's never happy when you're sharing good news with people. And so my understanding is, I think it was the second night, there were people throwing rocks at the satellite, and now there's a van parked in front of the satellite. But it's an amazing thing how it's gone so well, and people continue to attend. The Bible Friends at Mile 3 continue to expand. We're getting reports from all over Nigeria where at the various downlink centers, people are being blessed. We're getting reports from faraway places where things are going quite well. So I'm very pleased that the Lord's worked in a mighty way, and I'm just thankful to have been a part of it.
We thank the Lord for that.
Yes.
So how do you feel as the program is coming to a close?
Whenever I speak like this, there are two very distinct feelings. There's a lot of work that goes into this for many of the people involved, but for me personally, when you're speaking every single night, and then doing interviews like this, and I've had the opportunity to go visit the Chief Justice, and I visited one of the Aquaria Kings, and it becomes very tiring. And so by the time you come to the end, you're very tired.
Yeah.
And so as it comes to an end, you're relieved. You're saying, "Oh, Lord, thank you for giving me the strength, and we've made it. And I'm thankful, Lord, that we're done."
Okay.
But then there's another piece where I'm very sad because I've made new friends. I've learned new things. I've eaten new foods. And you've drawn near to people, I've made a new friend, Pastor Alvin. Pastor Alvin has been in charge of making sure I get to where I need to be and making sure that people don't take me to where I'm not supposed to be. And that's been every day. And when I leave on Saturday night, on Sunday morning, he's not going to come and pick me up. And so there's a part of me that's very sad. Another friend is the West Central Africa Division Communications Director. His name is Abraham Bakari. He's been in charge of making sure that I'm doing the right interviews and not wrong interviews, and we talk every day. And so there's a whole group of people that I've talked to every single day that's not going to happen, or that I've seen every day that won't happen now. And so there's a piece of you that's very sad. And as I leave Nigeria, yesterday I told the audience that I will leave a piece of myself behind. And I don't say that just to have people have sentimental thoughts, but that's a true statement that, Nigeria has been a part of my everyday life for the past essentially 21 days, and all of that is going to come to an end very quickly. And so there are two very distinct feelings: a relief and almost happy, oh wow, we're done. But then on the other piece, saying, wow, this is very sad because we're done. And so some people say, well, how do you deal with those feelings? Well, you just let those feelings flow, because a lot of times we have feelings in a lot of different things that are, there's a tension in those feelings. It's, as a pastor, you come to a congregation, you spend years with a congregation, and then you leave. And so you're happy about the new adventure, but you're very, very sad because you're leaving behind a group of people that you've grown close to. And that's how much of life is. And I look forward to heaven where we won't have those mixed feelings, because with eternity, we know that we will see each other again.
Yes, sir.
So
that's very nice,
yeah.
sir. So concerning the centenary program that is going on, we heard that it's going to be 100 days of Adventism.
Yes.
So how special is this program?
It's very, very special. My belief about the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the Seventh-day Adventist Church is very special. I believe that the Seventh-day Adventist Church was actually called through Bible prophecy for such a time as what we're living in right now. And the fact that the Seventh-day Adventist Church came to Eastern Nigeria 100 years ago, so, it would have been 1923. Now, the interesting thing about that is, I think it's very important for us to use the word officially came 100 years ago, because there are elements of the Adventist message that have been in Nigeria for much longer than that. For example, the message about the Sabbath. There are Nigerian Sabbath keepers that have been here much longer than that. And what makes me very excited about that is that tells me that God is not confined by a group of people or a particular person. God had his message come here a long time ago. The message of health. There are tribes within the country of Nigeria that follow health principles that are identical to the health principles of the Bible. But that was long before the Adventist Church came. But why is it special? It's special because someone 100 years ago had a heart for Nigeria and said, we need to come here and bring a message of good news, of hope, of encouragement. And the fact that the Adventist Church has been here for 100 years, and over the course of the last 100 years, has not only put churches, because it's one thing to put a church, and churches make a vital difference in the community, but to expend money to put institutions like schools and hospitals and other institutes of health, that speaks. And while somebody might say I'm biased because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, what that does is it speaks great volumes to the commitment of the Adventist Church to helping society become better, to help the hungry, to help the thirsty, to help the orphans, to help the widows, to help those that are unemployed. And all around the world, one of the things that's of great interest is when the Adventist Church comes to an area and begins to put schools and helps raise the educational level of individuals, it's an amazing thing how society changes for the better. And that makes me very happy. And the fact that that's been going on for 100 years is very special. And they'll be having a special celebration in Aba, but that celebration is special. But the fact that Adventism has been here 100 years is special. Now, I'll tell you what will be even more special is that we don't celebrate another 100 years of Adventism in Nigeria, but rather we celebrate in heaven because Jesus has come, because people have made a decision to follow Jesus and experience the transforming power of the gospel message.
It's sure going to be a big celebration.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So, Hope Channel Africa, it's now in Nigeria.
Yes.
Is this supposed to be a long-term project or a short-term project?
So the intentions and part of the overall project of Almost Home was the purchasing of equipment with the hope and understanding that there will be the development of a studio right here locally, and that programs will be produced for Hope Channel Africa, and hopefully there will be the development of Hope Channel Nigeria, and that this place will be a place where the gospel is produced and broadcast all across Nigeria.
Okay.
And once you begin producing programs, that's not just all across Nigeria, but it has the potential to go all over the world. Hope Channel has 80, I think it's 82 now. We seem to grow every week, but 82 channels around the world broadcasting in well over 100 languages. And so this is a real opportunity in Nigeria to take the gospel message out and broadcast it to a much wider audience.
Okay.
But also, even in Nigeria itself, there are certain places that are difficult to get the gospel message to penetrate. But the amazing thing is that once you enter the world of digital media, which, I mean, you have done with your podcast, people get YouTube, people receive satellite signals in the most difficult of places where, and I think there are some places in Nigeria where it's difficult to be a Christian, where you might be very severely persecuted to be a Christian. And the beauty of the gospel message being broadcast is that you can enter those areas and see the gospel message spread. So it is definitely a long-term project where the hope is that this will lead to the development of Hope Channel Nigeria.
So there's a saying that goes like this: the love of money is the root of all evil. So please, can you elaborate more on this saying?
One of the things that people make a mistake, because people will make the mistake and they'll remove the first part of that verse, and they'll remove the love of, and they'll say money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, there are people who are critics of Christianity and they might come to me and say, well, you know, you spent thousands and thousands of naira to get the gospel out in Nigeria. So how does that work when you say the love of money is the root of all evil? Money can be used for two things. It can be used for good, or it can be used for evil. And the challenge is for individuals is when our love of money is greater than our love for humanity.
Okay.
And how do we know that, or how can we see that manifest? Is when I make decisions. See, I need to make decisions because I care about you as an individual. But if my greatest care is money, then I really don't care how you feel. And I don't care if I hurt you. I don't care if your reputation is hurt. And so I make decisions on behalf of money.
Okay.
And so money is needed for the gospel. Even your podcast, it takes money to produce your podcast. It's not evil to need money, and nor is it evil to ask for money, nor is it evil to receive money.
Okay.
What becomes evil is when I love that money more than what God has called me to do.
Okay.
And something that I've noticed that is very, very interesting is in those moments where I have worried more about money than the proclamation of the gospel, money is a challenge. There's not enough. There's not in the right places. But when I hand that over to God and I say, God, the Bible says you own a cattle on 1,000 hills. You know that we have needs. You know that the gospel needs to go forward. And so, Lord, I'm just going to trust in you. It's an amazing thing how he provides. And that even happens personally. And so money itself is not evil. I've met many, many people who, by even the world's standards, are wealthy people who have a net value of millions and millions of dollars. But they do so much for the gospel. In fact, I'm reminded as you asked me this question, it just came to mind.
Okay.
There was a dentist that I worked with one time, and he came to me, and he had this very concerned look on his face, and I said, my brother, what can I do to help you? And he says, Pastor, I have a problem. And I said, tell me what your problem is. And he said, Pastor, the more money I give away, the more money God gives to me, and I don't know what to do. And I laughed and I said, well, my brother, that's a good problem to have. When we're giving, when we see needs and we provide for those needs. And so part of the reason that we did Almost Home is that there is a need. There's a need in West Central Africa for the gospel to go out. And so Hope Channel International, which is located in the United States, allocated funds to help the gospel go out here because there was a need. And so I think when we talk about the love of money is the root of all evil, how do we avoid that? Is that and this is not what the Bible says, but it's kind of a proverb maybe that I will say, the love of people will help you to not have a love of money that is more than those people. And when I love people, I will see the needs of people, and I will not be afraid to provide financially, buying food, providing water, providing drink. And there is a great joy in giving. And and it is a blessing to give, and so while yes, we need money to take the gospel out and to utilize media and various different aspects of taking the gospel, it's the love of money that is evil, not the money itself.
So, sir, if you weren't a pastor, what would you have become? Like, what did you have passion for?
That's a good question. I grew up, there are two things that I think I would have been had I not been a pastor. When I was going through secondary school, I wanted to be a math teacher. I enjoy math. I know that there are some people that are saying, how could you enjoy math? Because I know a lot of people don't, but I really like math. And I think I would have been involved in some type of youth group activity because I like being around young people. So that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a math teacher. But there's another passion I have. I really enjoy cooking. I really enjoy learning about other cuisines. I mentioned earlier, I've been driving around with my new friend, Pastor Alvin. I don't even think I've told him this, but I had eaten at a restaurant that was serving food from Ghana, and I really liked fufu. And so I went home and I actually I made fufu, and so I've now I used a machine to make it. I didn't pound it, like they pound it, but I think had I not been a pastor, I would have either been a math teacher or I would have been a chef at a restaurant somewhere that served international cuisine, because I like food from all around the world.
Okay, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that you said you love fufu. Okay, sir. Talking about marriage,
yes.
How did you get to meet your wife?
Oh, this is a very interesting story, but I met my wife when I was, let me think now, I was 20. Yeah, I was 20 years old.
Wow.
When I met my wife, and I was working at a fuel station, and I worked in the U.S. we call it the third shift. I was working from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. So I was working overnight because I had started a business with my father, and I wasn't making any money, but you still need to pay the bills, and so I worked this overnight. And at the same time, my wife was working as a nurse's assistant at a nursing home, a place that cares for the elderly, about a half a mile away. And so she came in one night when she had gotten off of work, because she worked from 3 p.m. until 11 p.m. And so she came in actually one day when I was training. And when I saw her, I said, this is a very beautiful woman. I would like to meet her. But, I was working at a fuel station, and that's not a very romantic setting and to try to meet somebody. But what happened after that is that she came in every single night after she would get off of work, and she would purchase just a little bit of fuel. And we would sit and we would talk, and we would talk and we would talk and we would talk. And she would often stay there for hours, because from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m., there's not a lot of people buying fuel, but there's some people. But so she would stay for a long time, and we would just talk about life, and excuse me, and we would learn about different things, and then eventually, I decided that maybe I would like to ask her to go on a date. And so we went on a date, and my wife had grown up a Seventh-day Adventist, but had gone through a time in her life where spirituality she was not living that lifestyle. I was not a Seventh-day Adventist, but I was very curious about religion, and so I began asking a lot of questions. And it's a very long story, but eventually, as I studied the Bible, I desired to become a Seventh-day Adventist, and something that's very important is I didn't want to become a Seventh-day Adventist so I could marry my wife. I wanted to become a Seventh-day Adventist because I believed it, and that's what happened. And so I was baptized in 1995. I became a Seventh-day Adventist, and then my wife and I were married in 1996. So I was 21 years old when I got married. I was just about to turn 22. And so we've been married 27 years.
That's lovely.
And by the way, my questions about the Bible really helped stir my wife's spirituality, where she began to live a Seventh-day Adventist lifestyle. And I always say this to young people because it's very, very important. And it's a principle. And this is the principle. There's no such thing as evangelistic dating. And what I mean by that is we don't go dating and we find someone who is of a different faith in hope that we'll make them our faith. Because for my wife and I don't want to use the word lucky, but we were lucky. There are many people that I have pastored over the years that they'll have a time in their life where they will begin dating someone of another faith and they will get married, but they never become the same faith. And that makes marriage very, very difficult when you're not of the same faith. And so I always caution young people, make sure that when you are considering someone who is going to be your long-term marriage partner, that husband or that wife, that they have a belief system that matches your belief system, because when they are not matching, it puts a great deal of pressure on the marriage that would not be there if you were of the same faith tradition. And that doesn't mean that, by the way, that every person of the same faith tradition is a good person. You need to look for all of those qualities of godliness, but also a shared and common faith tradition.
That's lovely, sir. So what has sustained your marriage till date?
There are a lot of things, but some of the keys that I would say are, I've already said, having the same faith tradition, praying together, and having a common goal, and that common goal being we want to get to heaven, and that means we're going to live a life that exemplifies Christian character. From a additionally practical standpoint is, I grew up, and again, I don't know if you have this saying in Nigeria here, but my mother used to always say to me, you have 2 ears and you have 1 mouth. Use them proportionally. What do I mean by that is, in marriage, listening is very, very important. Not just hearing the words, but listening to what someone is saying. Because we all go through difficulties, and in marriage, one of the most important principles is to understand one another, understand each other's story, listen to each other's story, and then be able to encourage one another. Number 2 is to spend time together. People will sometimes say to me, well, there's a difference between quality and quantity. Well, I would say in marriage, you need to spend quantity, and that quantity needs to be quality. Because you and I could be spending time together, and I could be on my phone and you could be on your phone, and we don't even know each other. But quality time is asking questions and listening, and in fact, doing interviews is against my nature because I like to ask a lot of questions because I like to learn about people.
Okay.
And so spending time together, and I've already said praying together, going to church together, studying the Bible together, all of these things lead, I think, to a long and sustained marriage. And there's a biblical principle that says, never let the sun set on your anger.
Okay.
Don't ever go to bed angry at your spouse.
Okay.
And there's a phrase that will help in many instances, and that phrase is, I'm sorry. Being willing to be humble, and when you are at fault, being willing to say you're sorry. Even when you're not at fault, being willing to come to try to work things out, because many marriages end in divorce. And the reason they end in divorce is because people don't discuss the issues that they have. They don't talk about the issues that they have. And we need to be able to we need to be willing to talk and work through whatever it is.
Okay.
And when we take our marriage vow, because when I married my wife, we made a vow, and that vow was, until death do us part. The vow wasn't, well, until you annoy me, or until you do something that I don't like, or until you don't look like the person that I married, or until, no. It says, until death do us part.
Okay.
And so we need to take that seriously. And if we take that vow that we made before God seriously, then we need to work off a very baseline that no matter what has happened, we're going to work these things out.
That's nice, sir. So in all, God has been the one sustaining the marriage.
Absolutely.
That's nice. So we are gradually coming to the end of the show,
Yes.
though. But then what do you have to say to the young ones of today when they try to navigate the pressures and challenges of today's world? What do you have to tell them?
There's a lot of pressures. My greatest counsel would be to listen to God and not listen to man.
Okay.
We were just talking about marriage. Let's talk about relationships. There is societal pressure for relationships to be vastly more intimate than what the Bible outlines. Now I was married at a very young age, and I readily admit that. But when we begin dating individuals, we need to understand and we need to ask a question: what's the purpose of dating? Well, the purpose of dating is not just to have fun. The purpose of dating is to investigate whether this person is somebody that I want to have a future with. Now, I don't know in Nigeria what the average age of dating is, but in the United States, we have very young children, a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old that are going on a date with someone. And I will say to myself, well, the Bible says, because when we investigate marriage, the Bible says in Genesis chapter 2 that a man shall leave his father and mother. And that word leave is it's the word that Jesus uses when Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? That word leave is the word forsake. What does that mean? It means that when we enter into a marriage relationship, we are leaving the dependence of our parents for our financial well-being, for our sustaining, and we are venturing out now to form a new family unit that will be self-sustaining. Well, I can tell you this, there's no 12 or 13-year-old that's ready to be self-sustaining. Yeah. And then it talks about being joined to the wife. And so don't rush in to relationships. Okay. because society has normalized a lot of things that are an abomination to God. Don't rush into relationships. Take time. Pray about it. God will lead you to the right person at the right time. And, even though I got married when I was 21 years old, I had lived on my own since I was 18. So I had my own job. I had my own apartment. I had my own car. So I had come a long ways in my life of being self-sustaining. But don't rush it. As far as other societal pressures, there's a lot of societal pressures for alcohol and drugs Don't give in to those societal pressures. Just because your friends are doing it doesn't mean that you need to do it. And probably the most important in the whole issue of societal pressure is there is a lot of societal pressure that is against the Bible and against God. Don't give up on God just because somebody else says you should give up on God. Don't be skeptical of God's existence just because society is asking questions. Go to the Bible, study the Bible, make church a vital part of your life, and build a foundation. And for every young person that's out there, don't adjust to society. Just because society says you should dress a certain way, you should look a certain way, you should have relationships a certain way, we could go on and on with it. No. Be a person that's founded on biblical principles, on godly principles that bring the betterment of society. Don't just, we have a saying in the United States, go with the flow. Don't go with the flow. Go against the flow.
Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
So finally,
yes,
what do you like in Nigeria that you would love the US to emulate?
Well, that is a good question. And so, I've already shared this a little bit, but one of the things I wish in the United States is that when people were naming their children, their names would actually mean something.
Okay.
Your name is Bliss, and this has meaning and history to it. And there's a little boy that comes every night he comes to me, he's about this tall, and his name is Perfect. And he always says to me, he says, Pastor, pray for me. But he's named Perfect. And then, I'll meet children whose names are Faith and Precious, and God's Power, and all of these different names, and all of them have different meanings. And then these are obviously English words. There are people that are named in Igbo words that mean the blessing of God, the power of God. And so something I would love to take back to the United States is for people to name their children with meaning. Okay. And that, by the way, this is what ancient Israel did. They would name their children, and they would name their children in the hopes that their children would live up to the characteristics of that name. Okay. And so I would love to see people and there are some people in the United States, because if somebody from the United States is watching, they're going to say, oh, but I did that. Well, some people do that, but a lot of people name their children things that don't mean a whole lot, and so to just have that beautiful meaning to it. Okay. I love the clothes of Nigeria. I'm going back with a suitcase full of clothing. In fact, before we did our interview, I was saying this is very comfortable. I think I'm going to fly home in this. And listen, I'm going to be wearing my Nigerian clothes while I'm in the United States. And even though some people may look at me and say, "Why is he dressed like that?" I love the Nigerian clothing. Nigerian food is wonderful. Another piece that I would love to bring back to the United States is the hospitality of the Nigerian people. And certainly there are hospitable people in the United States, and I don't want, if somebody from the U.S. is watching, I don't want to have them get all agitated by this. However, one thing in the United States that I think is very difficult is that sometimes we're so busy we don't take the time to think about other people. And the hospitality here has been amazing. Everybody that I have encountered has made me feel welcome. And you have made me feel welcome in being a part of your podcast. The pastors have made me feel welcome. Every home that I've gone to, I felt welcome. And even in a place, I had the opportunity to visit the king. And I was very nervous to go there because, you're going to a palace and you're very, very nervous. But he made me feel very, very welcome. And that is so meaningful to me. I'm a people person. I like being around people. Okay. And it's very nice to feel welcome. In fact, when I got off the plane, there were people standing in the jetway saying, welcome, welcome. And so The hospitality of Nigeria has been amazing, and I'm just thrilled to have been able to spend a portion of my life here, and I hope that I'm able to return sometime. But if I could take those things from here back home to the United States, I would love to take those things back.
Thank you very much, sir. It's really amazing to know that you love a lot of things from our country.
Yeah.
And thank you once again for your time and insight. I really appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
this is where we come to a close of today's show. If there's anything I've learned today, it is that you should not give up on God. Be that person of integrity, as the pastor have said today. Thank you very much, sir. To our audience, once again, thank you for always supporting and showing us love on our page. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a comment for us on today's show. I remain your host, Bliss. Bye, guys.